right, so let's start off with a cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to round two, man. We are live here at Nick's house, recording our second episode of our podcast series.
Yeah, we got a lot of response from our last video. I think we got like 1.5 million views. So we want to thank all you for liking and commenting and subscribing to our channel. That was a lie.
I was hoping so.
We had like 30 views, so...
Yeah, hey, it's a start, and we're building up. We were actually talking about this before we started recording, and the way we're looking at it is we want to do both you could call it informative, but we're by no means a news company. We're not investigative journalists or anything like that. We want to have fun with it. We want to have a good time. We want to talk about our viewpoints and conversation topics. But we're not meant to be like the informative group of people bringing you live breaking news or anything. So, we're just kind of flying by the cuff in some degree. We're picking topics. Today's topic, we're covering Mr. Epstein.
Jeffrey Edward Epstein.
Dun, dun, dun.
I just figured you guys would want to know his middle name. I did.
It made all your difference, huh?
Yep, it did.
Speaking of, so he was also born on January 20th, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. And we were going to go into his whole... Obviously his life, but more importantly, the worst ends of who he was as an individual and the shit he got into. And more importantly, how much did he really work for intelligence? Was there information to suggest that this man was not just a fucking prostitute, basically?
Where did he get all his money, too? All this stuff. You know, I just finished up that Netflix documentary, and man... he did some serious shit. So,
absolutely.
Where do you want to start?
So actually, Nick brought up a good idea, which is I think we're going to incorporate from here going forward, which is basically covering, because we're doing this like every few weeks or so. There's a lot of news that happens in between, a lot of new upcoming topics to talk about. So I think it's a good idea. We should basically cover some of the things that happened in the news recently. Mm-hmm. Go over some things, maybe something we've changed in terms of perspective or new understandings of topics unfolding. So we're going to cover that for a little bit, and then we will dive into the main topic at course. So that being said, is there anything you want to start off with in terms of recent news that kind of caught your eye?
Recent news, I know last time we were talking about George Floyd and all the protests and everything going down with that, but since then there's been statues being demolished or taken down.
What was the craziest statue you saw being taken down? Like, what was the because obviously there's justified statues and then there's non-justified statues being taken down. What's the craziest one you've seen?
To me, all of them. It's a part of history. It's there not to make you. It's there to make you think and for you to learn from it. If it pisses you off, good. It's doing its job. I think we're real sensitive now to everything, and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I don't know. I just think it's a piece of history. The craziest one that came down,
or about to become, like they're trying to take down or whatever. Yeah.
Who was the guy that wrote the national anthem?
They're trying to take him down?
They took his statue down. Whoever wrote the national anthem.
Okay.
Because he was a slave owner or something.
Yeah.
I gotta look that up now.
We also have a computer with us now, so we can do some research real time, which is nice. On a side note, though, I think we also addressed this in the last podcast, saying basically, my opinion is that I don't mind taking down like the Southerner officials who basically led the Confederacy to war. To me, that's okay. You want to take that shit down, by all means. History does not deserve a statue in my book just because it's history. I think if you were wrong, you can read about that in a textbook or whatever, but you know, I don't agree with putting up statues of Hitler or Epstein for that matter. I think those people should not be, deemed statue worthy. But to me, the craziest one they're trying to take down was Andrew Jackson, clearly a U.S. president. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're literally basing it upon who owned slaves back in that time period, you're literally wiping out the majority of the founding fathers.
Did you see like they had to put extra security at Mount Rushmore and they were taking down statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's all a part of history, Our history is not the greatest history in the world, but if we erase it or then we're just like, we're doomed to repeat it.
I don't think you're teaching history by keeping statues up per se, but I think a president definitely deserves, if you want to make a statue about him, I think that's deserving. If you want to put up a Truman, Washington, Jackson, Coolidge, whatever, you could throw all these guys up on statues, Mount Rushmore, all that shit does deserve it. I think if you're tearing it down purely for the sake that it has any sort of slavery ownership back in that time period, well, you got to pretty much wipe out like a good portion of that time period in terms of human perspective. It's a different time.
It definitely was a different time, but I believe I saw something. By the way, it was Francis Scott Key who wrote the national anthem. It was his statue that was coming down. Apparently, he might have owned the slaves or something like that. But I think at the height of slavery in the United States, only like 1.4% of the population actually owned slaves. The other 98% did not.
Interesting. Okay.
That's an interesting tidbit right there.
Which most likely were probably the people who could afford to own slaves.
Yes.
At the time. Yeah.
The elite.
Yeah. Woohoo. Okay, so that's going on. Obviously, that's this extreme version of the protesting that's taking place as we speak. Another topic that was brought up was the whole Bubba Wallace, NASCAR driver. I was surprised during the week to find that there were actually people that I was talking to at work who had no idea what was taking place, and I actually had to explain to them the whole.
I didn't know. I didn't.
You don't have to know it the day it comes out, but I mean, a week into it, like I get if you don't believe news companies, but Jesus Christ, like,
I think I heard a clip of it on CNN just before you mentioned to me about it, and I was like, I really don't know what's going on with it.
See, that's crazy. Like the fact that, I mean, was it the biggest news topic? Should it be focused on more so than other things? Not necessarily. But the synopsis basically was Bubba Wallace is the only black professional full-time driver for NASCAR. He claimed that he found a noose in his garage at Talladega right before a big race, and the FBI launched an investigation. Before the FBI releases their findings, the entire NASCAR drive, not every single one, but the majority of them, get together and they literally push his car to the front of the race as a show of solidarity, support, and all that kind of stuff. Like, racism is not accepted in our organization. So they do this, a great big thing happens, a lot of solidarity, which is really good. And then the FBI comes out and their findings reveal that the noose had been there well before the beginning of the year, as early as 2019. Which makes it basically a non-intended hate crime specifically against him. So take that if you will, as you will, but it was very ironic and very shocking, especially to the left side or the Black Lives Matter movement, however you want to look at it, to find that it wasn't really a hate crime taking place, or at least it wasn't intended to be towards him in that time period, which is kind of ironic.
So it was fake. Or was it?
So here's the question, and we don't know, essentially, is it had been there, at least they reported it being there since at least October, November of 2019.
Okay.
Which is well before all of the BLM movements of this year, obviously. So the question is, has the racism always been there and that's just been an accepted part of it? I mean, let me say this. You can definitely say it was not an act intended for him specifically at that time. That we know.
So what did the FBI concluded that it was
the reason
there since when?
Like mid-fall, October 2019.
Okay.
Possibly earlier. But guaranteed.
I think I heard accounts that it was there since 2017.
You could make that case. Absolutely.
But regardless, if I'm this big shot race car driver and I see a noose and it offends me and I don't like it there because it reminds me of a noose, or if it is a noose, or if it's not a noose and it's just to pull down the garage, and I'm this big race car driver, why not just tell your pit guys to get rid of it?
If it truly was an intended act towards him, I think he wasn't. I don't think he would be wrong to go towards social media, make it a big thing, take advantage of the movement. Because if it was an act being portrayed in that time period, that should be, in my opinion, I don't think he was wrong in trying to bring it to light via social media. The fact that it wasn't actually what he thought it was, that's a huge eye-opener for the entire argument, if you will.
Gotcha.
But at the end of the day, he's not he wasn't necessarily wrong, but he should have done a little bit more back check. I mean, I don't know if you could back check. I mean, everything that's going on right now, I get it. At the same time, it wasn't a hate crime. That's the only reason the FBI actually got there. The only reason the FBI was brought into to investigate it is to see if there was an actual hate crime being perpetrated against him, in which case you would press charges and so on. But clearly there wasn't, so, I mean, you could, at that point you're basically saying it was blanketed racism across the entire world, or the organization at least, but, was it really truly intended him? That was a no. So.
All right, let's move on to a different subject then. I think that one takes care of itself.
Crazy, right?
Because a lot has happened since our last podcast, and let's see, now we're talking about defunding the police, and we're talking about, then there was that whole Brooks, Rashawn Brooks, I think his name was, got shot in the Wendy's parking lot, and then they burnt it down.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's a good topic.
What's your take on that? I mean, I saw the whole video, and
I am in favor of the cops on that one, because again, if you take it as, and I'm a BLM supporter by all means, I totally support the movement and everything, but the guy literally stole the taser. I mean, first of all, he's going under arrest. He falls asleep in the parking lot waiting for a drive-thru or whatever. The cop, throughout the whole video is released. The chest cam video is entirely on YouTube if you want to watch it. The cop is completely understanding of, I mean, if I fucking did that, I probably would have been arrested for a DUI before he even made me pull the car over. Really. Not because I'm white or anything, but literally just because he was being so understanding of the situation. Like, hey, man, did you have a long day at work? It's been a long day, right? Yeah. All right, man, just pull over and sleep it off. You'll be fine. If anybody else had been in that situation realistically, and I'm not arguing with the cop at all, but I think the cop was more than trying to be understanding of the situation given the circumstances. He was literally trying to just be like, dude, you're just blocking the way. Let's pull you over and then let it go. And then further investigation, suspected drinking and all that kind of stuff. So then he did the further investigation, which led to the guy getting arrested, which, I mean, I'm going to admit, I have not heard any autopsy results on the alcohol in the blood at the time. But regardless, I mean, even if there wasn't, the guy literally resisted arrest on 2 officers, stole the taser, shot at, or at least shot near the direction of one of the cops. I mean, at that point, I don't think the cop was wrong.
I don't think so either. I mean, even at the end, like, they were saying that the taser was already used, so, I guess they're trying to make that argument. So can you prove that the cop knew that the taser was already used, that he posed no threat, but he stole a deadly weapon, and it can be deadly, those tasers. I mean, it's putting quite a bit of voltage through you to literally demobilize you. And then he could go and steal your gun and then shoot him with the gun. But apparently also, even if the taser was already used, it still makes off this popping noise, apparently.
Okay.
That was something that was brought to my attention as well. And if it does, and you're a cop, that popping noise, you don't know if it's gun or if that taser's still working.
Plus, this is all happening in like 20 seconds with all this action taking place. And yes, there is a heavy responsibility on cops to be more responsible with their weapons. We give them the right to use it, assuming they use it right. But I think there are plenty of examples of cops doing the wrong thing to black men in situations that are all unfelt. I just don't think this was one of those cases where the cops should be charged for fucking murder for taking him down. Now, granted, he shot him in the back while he was running away. Yes. But after that altercation, and this guy is now fleeing into a neighborhood, if the cop can't chase him down and this guy gets away, what's going to happen next type of situation? This is the type of scenario where I don't... You could definitely argue, like, temporarily firing the cop. I could think you could get him off the job for a short period of time.
I guess.
Thank you. Suspension. I think you could make that argument.
A lot of it comes down to training too. A lot of it comes down to training in certain circumstances where when you're in that kind of situation, it's very hard to make a good decision in that situation. Very hard. But you know, I've seen the whole video, and you know, somebody burnt down the Wendy's. What did the Wendy's have to do with? What did they do, man?
Well, you got to go after the fucking burgers, man.
4 for 4, man.
Good point. Actually, so I did find out, according to the news, at least, that woman who I believe was the boyfriend of Rashad, she is...
Girlfriend, you mean?
I'm sorry, it's girlfriend. You're right.
You never know these days. But...
Exactly. She has been charged. So she was captured and charged, and rightfully so, because, again, like you said, what the fuck did Wendy's have to do with this situation? And also that... I wasn't going to go with this... well, yes, she's been taken out of the situation. But again, I mean, you know, you could make the argument: did the cop have to shoot the guy in the back? Could he shoot him in the legs?
Did he have to shoot him at all? I mean, I saw this heated exchange between Geraldo Rivera and who was that guy? Dan Bongino on Fox News, and Dan Bongino, I think he was an ex police officer and Secret Service agent. And so he knows what it's like to be a police officer and what they have to go through. And Geraldo Rivera was taking this one stance. And they were just going basically off the video. And, the officer couldn't let them go. You know, what was he going to do if he was just drunk running around in the woods with a taser? There's a lot you can do that could happen.
What would he do running around drunk with a taser?
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah.
Does he deserve to die because of it? Not necessarily.
No, but again, we all have personal choices to make.
Yeah.
Could you have just listened to the cops? Could you have just, you know, got in the car? Did you have to take 2 of them down and fight in the parking lot?
Yeah.
I mean...
Exactly.
There's only so much you know... And who's going to want to be a cop anymore because of all this?
Well, that's a whole other topic, absolutely. That there's a lot of cops walking away from their positions at this point because of the shit. Like, they're doing like the defund the police and the rallies and stuff like that. There was, I believe, in New York City... They were doing a rally for defunding the police, but the protesters requested that the police be there for their safety. Jesus Christ.
So,
get the fuck out of here,
I'm not
man.
even joking.
It's unreal. One of the extreme versions of this I saw recently, there's a Twitter account, I think it's called New York City Scanner. It could be off on the exact terminology, but it's something like that. There was an event this weekend in Brooklyn where basically a call was placed in Brooklyn for shooting, and the cops showed up and they were ambushed by, I'm going to call them rioters basically at this point. That 2 cops showed up and they were ambushed, and I don't know what the outcome fully was because the news media didn't want to cover it, but the fact that the extreme version of the movement has now moved into a rioting atmosphere of they're now ambushing cops. And like, okay, you want to live in a Seattle Chaz environment, then go to fucking Chaz. Like even though it's pretty much going to shut down at this point, like go to another country, go do that. Okay, in America, we want fucking police. We want protection. We do need civil government. In my book, there's no argument against that. But we want it to be reformed so that police brutality changes. That's the end of it. And it's on both sides. You have the majority of people in the peaceful protesting and the black community who are like, whoa, this is going way too far. And it sucks because now it's actually ruining the movement to some degree. But there is no argument that I could possibly get behind where you defund the police for that reason. If you want to make a financial balance sheet argument against the local municipalities inappropriately funding cops more than other parts of your municipality's groups, okay, go to a fucking town hall meeting and have that conversation. Go down that road, do that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean you want to defund. Like, the reason that my understanding is they want to defund the police because they see them basically as racial pigs that should be put out of their jobs, essentially, which is totally not entirely true.
I think there's different extremes to that. There's different sections of the population that want to either defund the police, completely abolish them, get rid of them. Then there's those that want to reallocate monies for whatever, if it's black communities, or they want to reappropriate that monies towards something else, which I guess kind of, you know, I'm a little down with reforming the police. I think they have too much money and too much time on their hands.
Sorry to cut you off, but I think that's actually a good way to put it, is reform the police, not defund the police.
Well,
reform it. restructurize it. I mean, there needs to be corrections.
Well, I saw this thing where Greg Gutfeld, he was talking about a solution to this, and it's not a good solution, and he made the point that if there is a call to it, and it's a black person, to have a black officer deal with that situation. If it's a white guy and they have a call, they would have a white officer
Yeah, I don't see that.
go to that call. But the point he was trying to make was it may seem racist on the surface, but it actually gets rid of the race, because now you're looking at what they did, you know, the tactics used, how, you know, the policies, how that officer treated that other officer, or how that officer treated the person they called on,
the prisoner or whatever. Yeah,
you know.
Again, I don't think that would change anything, because it's
not a real thing. It's just to make
to
make a point. He wasn't saying this is what we should do.
Okay,
it was more to make, you know, the point that get rid of the race equation. Now
you're still going to see the same. Well, I can't say for sure you're going to see the same outcome, but I think the argument is towards police, not towards white versus black.
Mm-hmm.
Just the majority of people who are cops end up being white, and so on. But at the same time, side note, by the way, I did see a very good argumented point that is more whites are killed by cops than blacks, but the argumented point was the fact that there's significantly more white people in the country as opposed to blacks. So you could make the case that the percentage wise is significantly much more towards against black people, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fun point I picked up on this week through the research and all that good stuff.
Now, I know you support Black Lives Matter. Now, do you support the organization itself, or, you know, just the whole thing behind it, the whole?
So again, I mean,
idea behind it, I guess.
I think it's the idea. I don't. If I hear somebody say BLM and all this kind of stuff, I'm not automatically believing everything they say.
Mm-hmm.
What I am believing is, and this is what I totally advocate for everybody. And one of the cool things about Nick here is that he's somebody who does his own research. You know, if you do your own research, you find your own conclusions. You're somebody I have a really good time talking to and sharing ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the BLM thing, like, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon that the rioters and the looters represent the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't automatically assume it's all bullshit because they're burning buildings. No, there is such a thing as police brutality. There are plenty people, black people, who have been killed unjustifiably, and the cops got scot-free. And now, because the movement has taken place to this extreme, those people are being charged. And that to me is a good thing. That to me is, okay, this is actually working in favor. I don't support the extremism of it, like the defund the police aspect of it. I don't support the tearing down presidential statues. I don't think the Chaz is anything worth really looking into regarding this situation. And the sad thing is, of course, I don't represent the black community at all. Mm-hmm. But just from what I'm gathering from them, the majority of them are like, no, we're not about that. We don't want to defund the police. We just want to stop being brutalized in the process of certain charges. Mm-hmm. And again, there were so many instances throughout this whole thing where, like, there was a cop that got separated from his unit, and the black men surrounded him, linked arms, and protected him from the rioters coming towards him. They protected a cop. There's black people hugging white cops. There's, just cops in general. You know, and even just to go off that, if you see a black man who is a police officer and you see these white protesters getting in his face saying, what are you doing? How are you doing this stuff? The guy's doing his fucking job. He's being called to serve as a anti-rioting protection, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're being a peaceful protester, speak your mind, but at the same time, how the fuck is he the enemy just because he's a black man in a police uniform? I know, you can make the argument of what's been going on for so many years. I got a black friend who almost daily while this thing was going on, because I opened up the channel. I said, dude, I'm here for you just as a friend to listen to you, to hear what you have to say right now. Mm-hmm. And every day he recounted personal experiences that he had of racism. And I listened to him because I want to hear what he has to say about it, you know?
Yeah.
And he did. He definitely experienced racism in his lifetime, which I would never even know about as a white guy living my life. But even those situations, these people that I talk to, they don't look at it as like all cops are bad.
Yeah.
You know, they don't look at it as like tear down the fucking police force. They want to stop being absolutely brutalized in the event of situations that don't deserve it. Or even, and what sucks about it is they came to a place, from what I understand, where the brutalizations that took place, they were able to at least accept it, but to let the cops just go scot-free was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that ideology, I believe personally, is the reason to support the ideology behind the movement.
Yeah. Well, I think, in my opinion, I think that it's more than just, what's going on. I think it's just cops in general. Maybe, so, there are some bad eggs, and but there's a lot more good cops out there than there are bad cops, and you got to take into account the area that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else.
I don't think you could blanket cops as being wrong.
No, you can't.
At the end of the day.
I think it has to, a way to fix that problem. And I don't want to spend too much time because I really want to get into Jeffrey Epstein. But the reason that we're going over some of the stuff that's happened in the past couple of weeks, because a lot of things happen. And absolutely. You may have a different point of view, or you may hear something that changes your mind on the subject. Yeah. And the whole reason I wanted to bring back up the Black Lives Matter thing again is because some of my opinions have changed since then. Well, I don't think I'm for the organization of Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear your point of view on the two leaders. I think who
are Marxists.
Yeah, I would like to know what you think about that. And then there's been a lot of things going around. I don't know if it's a conspiracy thing. Maybe you have a different point of view on this. If you go to the Black Lives Matter website, you click donate, you scroll down to the bottom of the website, it goes to Act Blue. I'm sure you've heard of that. Mm-hmm. Act Blue is a Democratic donation site. Basically, they fund presidential candidates all the way from Buttigieg, every single primary candidate up to Joe Biden. So it's that I think is a little fishy. It's a little weird.
Absolutely.
And then also the fact that Black Lives Matter was around in 2016. It was, I think, one of the number one trends on, hashtags and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Then it flatlined. Then there was a little bit of a blip during the midterm elections, and then now it's skyrocketed again.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? I'd like to get another opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a white guy on the outside, because I obviously don't experience the same thing that the Black community experiences on a daily basis, I would not be. Well, let me address what you're trying to get to, which is basically that the BLM is a clearly democratic movement, and it is clearly supporting the blue side at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, doesn't make me want to support it for that reason. Mm-hmm. But the ideology, I will never stop supporting the idea that the police brutality needs to stop. Plain and simple. As far as the organization goes, and if it turns into like a public funding event and they're only supporting Biden and all this kind of stuff, then I'm not gonna vote for Biden just because the BLM supports it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Quite frankly, the guy can't even keep his eyes open. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
And if you want to donate money to it, that's your opinion. Mm-hmm. I personally will not. I don't mind saying it. I got no problem vocalizing it. I support police reform. I'm not saying that should justify all democratic fucking beliefs and you should all be liberals now because of this. No, absolutely not. The fact that the two leaders of the movement are Marxists. Mm-hmm.
Trained Marxists, by the way. I don't know what that means.
I mean, I'm assuming they practice it in their own lives in another country or something because you can't do it here. But, at the end of the day, if they are trying to mingle the two together, well, you know what? That's on you guys. You guys want to run around the country. When I heard about Seattle, for example, I didn't support the idea. Yeah. I personally did not see Seattle being a good idea to take over the fucking city capitol and abolish the police force, and now you guys are walking around. Do you really want like a 22-year-old with an AK serving justice to people? It makes no fucking sense, regardless of your color. You know? But it's continue. It doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, to justify changing your belief structure of your political views or all this kind of stuff into one segment. It should be its own separate movement.
Mm-hmm.
It should have no political affiliations. And if the majority of the people who are in the movement decide to vote blue in November, then it is what it is. But I don't think that should be like, I will never say to myself, I believe in BLM for the ideology, therefore I'm going to follow everything they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reason...
No, you can't do that now. With anything.
Exactly. And this is a pure example of why you need to do your own research. I am a huge proponent of getting off the party bandwagon and not believing that whatever your party chooses or says is gold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, not only do your own research, but you're going to find if you truly go independent in your own life in terms of voting and all this kind of stuff, you're going to find opposition no matter who you talk to.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure, yeah. And
that sucks because obviously you're not trying to offend or get into conflict with anybody, but you're just thinking for yourself. And if you're going to sit there and say, I am hardcore liberal or hardcore conservative for any reason other than the actual values that they stand for, you know, you're not in it for the right reasons. So yeah, if the BLM is leaning towards and funding the Democratic Party, yeah, I'm not in support of supporting that.
Well, the sad thing is you basically only have those two choices, red or blue. But in the end,
you don't
at the ballot box.
You're right for practicality reasons.
If you have a certain set of values and you swing one way or the other, your only choice is to vote one way or the other, unless it's just a complete downright shitty candidate,
which has been getting worse and worse each
election. Seems like it, right?
Like slowly but surely, yeah.
I don't think there was really anything else that I really wanted to talk about as far as catching up on the previous couple weeks.
I think we covered a significant portion of it,
we did,
politically
right?
speaking, of course, and everything. So
definitely want to get into Jeffrey Epstein. That was the
actually, hold on. I'm sorry. Before we do that, one last topic is the COVID explosion rates all throughout the southern states, because that's a very interesting topic in my personal opinion.
Okay, I've done
from California to Texas to Florida.
Yep.
Rising cases significantly. Now, obviously, you could make the case this is due to protesting. Hugely linked to the protesting movement and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
My opinion about what this tells us from a scientific perspective, is that the social distancing and wearing the masks and PPE does work, because you have a perfect case where these movements have happened, where all of that was essentially thrown out the door in those time periods.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're having explosion of cases.
But cases or deaths?
Cases so far, deaths are to be determined.
Well, I guess it's always to be determined as far as deaths.
Well, I mean, just because you get it in 1 week doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how I feel about that with the explosion of cases. I mean, so is it linked to the rioting or is it not linked to the rioting? Is what's going on?
So I agree with the ideology that one is it just hasn't swept through the southern yet. Like, there is such a thing as herd immunity, which obviously New York and California, for the most part, should have been exposed to, but now they're also experiencing resurgency. But more importantly, I think the South has not been exposed to it nearly as much as New York City, New Jersey, and the tri-state area. And as it is beginning to spread significantly through the South, and also I will admit there has been an increase in testing capabilities. So that is a factor that I have not run the numbers on yet. My understanding is, even though the testing has increased from what I've heard through interviews and such, the rate at which the testing has increased has not matched up to the rate at which the cases have increased. So that tells me that the spread has happened faster due to the lack of shutdown activity or at least not even that, but just people are making the argument like, why do you gotta wear a mask? It's a fake disease. There's no reason to be worried about it and all this kind of stuff. Well, there is evidence right now, in my opinion, that this is an actual disease. It actually affects people and it spreads significantly. And should PPE and social distancing be the only defense against it? No, not necessarily. It's not going to be an end-all cure to it, but it's something to be implemented, per se.
I don't know. I don't have much to say on that. I have, I guess, difference of opinions on...
Well, what's your opinion, man? That's
what well, I mean, it just, first of all, I think all this stuff changes daily as far as cases versus deaths. Now we're talking about cases more than we are talking about deaths. We need ventilators. We don't need ventilators. Masks. We don't need masks. It seems like in the news, it's just one way or the other. Personally, I don't believe in masks. I believe in breathing fresh air. And when I have to sneeze or cough, I do it like any other normal person should do it out there. Away from somebody, cough into your elbow or whatever you need to do to not spread that. As far as the masks are concerned, I've seen a lot of things out there where, like the KN95 masks, it only protects 95% of a certain amount of micrometers of particles, and the COVID particle is way lower than whatever the smallest amount of that 95% is. From what I understand, even from talking to distributors of the masks, that they really aren't doing anything. So I've heard that. I've heard a lot of different points of views. I think the disease is real. I think the sickness is real. I don't think what we're doing. I think everything else is political, and I think everything else is a hoax.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I mean, like,
fair enough.
The ventilators, I've heard of people dying because they were put on ventilators. And it was just basically making your lungs work, and then they would just give out. It was basically automatically, like the iron lung during, I think, polio or something like that.
Well, the iron lung has been proven to be effective. I mean, people are alive today with polio. There's like a few survivors. The only reason they're alive is because of the iron lung.
Because of the iron lung.
Yeah. But just in regards to that point specifically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there were certain people, I think, a lot of this stuff, if you focus on building your immune system, we don't talk about that. We just talk about wearing masks in public and shutting down businesses and stuff like that. If we boost our immune system, I've heard other things where UV light kills it, sunlight and heat kills it.
I mean, does it? Who knows?
I've heard a lot of things where it actually survives longer indoors versus outdoors.
You could make that argument. I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many variables to it, which is
there is. And honestly, I think a lot of it's political. I think after the election, no matter who wins, I think you're not going to hear about this. We're going to be on to some, the next thing.
I think you're right that we're not going to hear about it, but not because it's political. I don't think it's political at all, but I think politics have leveraged it significantly. And the reason I say that is because you have scientific current research going on regarding both the transmission and the effectiveness of its mortality rate. So you have people from the WHO, you have people from, just as an example, you have literally the CEO of United Health Insurance has left his position temporarily to go work on a cure with the entire, I'm pretty sure it's like a European Union organization, but I could be wrong about that. But the fact that the CEO from United Health, and the largest health insurance company, has stepped down temporarily to go work on a cure for this. And I mean, there's hundreds of other examples going on in terms of like just the scientific community alone addressing this in terms of curing it, resolving it, understanding it, studying it, and so on. I don't think it's a political movement by itself. I think there is, more than enough evidence to suggest that it is something taking place naturally. And could you make the argument that it was released unnaturally? Sure. Sure. Could you make the argument that it was created unnaturally?
Oh, but I know there's so many different things out there. You just
could. We don't know.
You really don't know.
But at the end of the day, I don't think you can use that as an argument to completely ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to argue whether or not shutting down the economy is the right answer to it, but I do believe that there are standards that need to be taken and precautions that should be addressed in order to limit the amount of exposure. And actually, a fun thing that or an ideology that I came across recently, it's our last podcast,
mm-hmm.
was that the government didn't actually impose the restrictions to save lives. The real ideology was that in limiting creating social distancing, keeping everyone at home and all that, the lockdown basically, the ideology was to limit the amount of people going into the hospital and healthcare system.
So you were talking about how we were underprepared at the start of all this, or we were just underprepared for anything like this?
We were underprepared for both, essentially. And
okay.
I mean, just a side note, I work in the operating room. I've been a surgical tech for 10 years. This is my only experience in it. I'm not a political official by any means, but just different perspective. And having communication with nurses and doctors who were, if not in New York City, definitely in the region and in, let's say, active duty in terms of fighting this thing in the ERs locally.
So now, is this only like a New York City anomaly where they were underprepared, or they were worried about overflow in the hospitals, or was it everywhere? Because I mean, I don't really see like Newton Hospital. I don't think they were ever overrun.
No, the reason for that primarily was the fact that you got to look at the population Newton Hospital is serving.
Yes.
So New York City population, obviously significantly different than Sussex County. We had a tech that I worked with I work at a surgical center in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. We had a tech who she was working 2 different companies at the same time. And she ended up serving Morristown ER while this is all going down. And the claims that she was making, at least, were that, and remember, we're surgical techs, which means we literally just work in the operating room.
Mm-hmm.
They're pulling us into the ER department.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know all the shuffling around that's been going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Some people couldn't take it. Some people
couldn't take it. Lot. I'm not gonna lie, dude. A lot of doctors didn't want to volunteer to help out, and this is nothing against them. It's just the fear was so. We had no idea what we were dealing with.
Oh yeah, I think that the doctor that discovered this in China or something died of it. Well, and he was a doctor, wasn't he?
He was, but that might have been a government thing. Truth be told, who knows?
I'm all for conspiracies. So.
That's a good one. That's a very good one to check into.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So while this whole thing is going on, like first it hits the U.S. and Washington, most likely California. You can debate it. But also New York City. Obviously.
I'm going to say New York City because this is just me. I mean, I know a lot of people that got sick that were close to me. I didn't get sick. I'm not saying it's from COVID, but it was right around mid-February. Spread like everybody got sick around me. I was like, holy shit, I don't want to get this.
Yeah. And
I stayed away from everybody.
Absolutely. We all did.
But that was like mid-February before it was all crazy in the news. So my opinion, I think all of this already kind of went through the population, at least in our area.
That's a good point.
Prior to when, we were making a big deal before we even shut everything down. Everything was normal mid-February. And
true.
That's when I think it was going. And I think there's a lot of evidence out there that could support that claim too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that because we want to get back to our
main topic.
Main topic of the day.
Let's make a side note. How about we cover the COVID as another podcast?
Well, maybe we should do 2 podcasts.
What do you mean?
Do 2.
Like 2 separate?
Yeah, one to cover everything else that we, what's been going on, and then we'll get right to our main topic of the day.
Oh, in the podcast?
Just have 2. I mean, look,
okay,
we're at
like 30 minutes roughly.
No, that's 3 minutes. That's since we.
But 20 minutes, 27 minutes on the first half.
Yeah, right? So like the first half will maybe be a recap.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna transition into the Epstein topic, which was the main topic for today's podcast.
Jeffrey Edward Epstein.
Middle name. So I want to start this off by just asking, who do you think did kill Epstein? Because clearly he didn't kill himself. We all know that.
Definitely didn't kill himself. Is he dead though? Is he dead?
Dude, he's fucking dead.
I don't know.
He's not
Is it
chilling
that-
with Tupac, all right?
Listen, is it that hard to? Is it that much of a conspiracy theory to say that this guy?
You're getting into like Alex Jones shit when you say he's still alive. Man.
I'm just entertaining the theory.
Okay.
I mean,
All
to,
right.
just
Let's say he's still alive.
Just to entertain the fact that you could fake somebody's death. I mean, there's
Good.
You know what? I'm not even going to get back into anything else that's going on in the world. I mean,
why would you?
There's theories of that George Floyd isn't dead, that his twin brother is really him, and stuff like that going on. We're not going to get into that. Okay. So we are going to stick with the reality that he is dead.
He's dead.
But he did not kill himself.
He did not kill himself. So who did kill him? Any ideas?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to venture on a limb, and this is just a theory that I'm kind of constructing in my own head as we go along. I think it was intelligence. And I think what happened was, given the linkage he had to...
I mean, Jesus Christ, like, you had the whole Wendy's shooting, Rashad Brooks or whatever.
Yeah.
You had camera angles all over that fucking Wendy's, and then the cameras magically go missing in a maximum security prison.
That's a good point, man. But, do you have to worry about that?
Oh shit, my battery's dying.
We got some low battery going
on.
Aren't you plugged in?
Nope. That's the microphone. Let's dismiss that. Might have to plug her in.
We need the microphone, right?
I guess we need the microphone, yeah.
I guess some technical difficulties should happen. All right, well, we got time. 20% should last us for a while.
Yeah.
Bear with us on our first few episodes. We're definitely working out the kinks.
Working out all the kinks. I mean, I think the backdrop is a little bit better than last time.
Much better.
Trying to be a little more professional here. We got a nice little tripod and microphone set up, so
it's looking good. It's looking good, man. But to get back to the point, that's a damn good point, dude.
Right?
The camera system should not have gone out at the
last
night.
No, in a maximum security prison where I think they had one suicide in the past like 60 years or some shit, and this motherfucker
is dead.
Security guards are fucking sleeping. You know, they're trying to buy shit on Amazon.
He's fucking killed. Come on. I at the end of the day, I think it was intelligence. I think if he got released, at the end of the day, what would happen is he gets released, or at least he goes to jail and he survives, which is nearly impossible. And the truth comes out about how much he was in ties with the intelligence agency. Again, all conspiracy theory at this point, but my viewpoint is his services being provided to high-ranking officials, provided intel and dirt on those officials, being fed to the intelligence agencies. The intelligence agencies didn't want to prosecute him while this shit was going on, knowing full well what was happening, because they were getting the intel that they needed for whatever reason. And I think should he continue to survive, at this point he'd become a liability, voice his opinion or the truth or whatever. America would find out that the intelligence agencies were not only fully aware of what was going on with the underage girls and everything, but also that they were using it to their own advantage. And I think at the end of the day, that's most likely what pretty much took him out of the picture. But that's just my idea. Who knows?
Yeah, no, who knows with that? I mean, I think that is a spider web of craziness there. That was the most high profile thing going on, and then boom, he's dead.
And then you made a good point recently when we were talking before we shot this, basically, that everyone talked about it and then nobody talked about it.
Yes.
It just dropped.
Well, I mean, go back to the MSNBC, I think, story. They had all of this, and then they had the hot mic on the reporter. What's her name? I'm not sure her name, but she was on the hot mic after the Epstein story broke that he was gonna, you know, they arrested him, and I'm not sure when the hot mic came out, but she basically said she had it all. She had all this information.
Really?
She was so pissed because she had everything. Edwards, everything about Epstein, and MSNBC killed the story. They basically kept...
Really?
And this was in 2000... She had all this information in 2015 or 14 or maybe earlier. I'm not sure of the dates.
Right. I'm not surprised, man. I mean, like the thing we do know for sure, which is pure fact, is that he was investigated by the FBI at one point. He got charged with prostitution charges, and I believe it was the Tampa Bay police who were pressing the charges. or were involved with the investigation came to the conclusion that there was much more going on, so they brought in the FBI. The FBI starts their own investigation.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I got it written down here, the U.S. Florida District Attorney Alexander Acosta is the one who literally who's leading the case and becoming the federal prosecutor on the entire situation. He has one meeting, according to the Netflix documentary, he has one meeting with Epstein's lawyers, and he pretty much drops all the charges, which leads Epstein to go through a smaller sentencing of prostitution, which leads him to less than 2 years of jail time. He doesn't even serve as much, and he gets off relatively scot-free compared to what he was doing. The question is, how come Alex Acosta dropped the case after meeting with Epstein's lawyers? It's a huge open-ended question in his whole investigation. And I think when you get into his biography of all the people that he affiliated with, how he made his money, how many officials from all around the world, from Israel to Iran, Iraq, and so on.
You're talking about Acosta here or
Epstein?
Epstein.
All the high-ranking officials that he was affiliated with and he had direct communication, which were confirmed. How does he have all those ties with these people? Because, I mean, yes, pedophilia is a horrible thing throughout the entire world, unfortunately, at this point.
Mm-hmm. Human trafficking as well.
Human trafficking. But he had some connections to people that, I mean, you're either going to make the case that the entire world's high-ranking political officials are all in on a pedophilia ring, or you're going to make the case that they were literally being intelligence influenced at the end of the day. In my opinion, so to speak.
Well, let's go over some of these figures. We got Prince Andrews. I think Donald Trump was implicated in this as well.
Mm-hmm. There was no confirmation on Trump ever flying, or I should say, there was no confirmation on him actually utilizing the services.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to Clinton, which literally flew on it like he had like a fucking season pass.
Yeah, season pass.
Six Flags. Yeah,
Jesus.
It's sad. It's sad, but he literally did. Which why isn't he arrested at this point?
Who?
Bill
Clinton?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be going down a whole nother rabbit hole with that.
I mean, Hillary is one thing as a Secretary of State. It's an email scandal.
Well,
Bill, you could literally make the case that he was touching little girls, and he's still fucking walking scot-free.
I think you could make the case with Hillary Clinton as well. I know that there was something going on in the news as far as her having to testify on certain emails that were that were obtained through Huma Abedin's husband Anthony Weiner's laptop that somehow implicated her in this. That I don't know if it's 100% true, but I do know that the government watchdog was supposed to. They're trying to get her to testify, and then she keeps dodging it. She keeps appealing it. Now the judge says early September. Mm-hmm. She has to show up.
This is basically email charges at the end of the day. Like,
yeah, it could all be conspiracy stuff, or it could all be, September, we're going to see some fucking crazy shit before the election.
Absolutely. And you do what you got to do in terms of, bringing down justice. I totally get it. But in my book, there's a difference between email scandal,
mm-hmm.
And what does it lead to? Essentially organizing fundraising for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. By all means, press charges, do your thing. But there is blatant fucking evidence that Bill flew on the plane and had his way.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Well, other celebrities.
What the fuck?
Other celebrities, like Kevin Spacey was on there. What happened with Kevin Spacey?
What the fuck?
Did you see all that shit that's going on with him? Him being in court and shit, and
there was always charges against him, but it never flourished in anything that I could say.
I heard some crazy stuff like, he had 4 cases against him or something like that. 4 sexual harassment cases. 3 out of the 4 or something like that. They're dead now.
The victims or something like that.
I don't know.
Wow.
Do not quote me on any of this shit. Just look it up for yourself. I heard something. I'm a little dyslexic. I get a lot of things confused and mixed up.
We're all human.
But I believe I heard something along the lines like that where, some crazy shit like the Kevin Spacey body count versus Hillary Clinton body count. Everybody's got a fucking body count.
Jesus,
I mean, it's like everybody's fucking wants to compete with John Wick,
Yeah, but not for the right reasons.
Not for the right reasons.
It baffles my fucking mind that you can have a pedophilia ring in Hollywood in politics, in celebrities, in financial CEO world or whatever. You can have it pretty much rampant throughout the entire world, and yet nothing's happening. There is no fucking justice being served.
No.
There is no prosecution taking place. And it's all tied into, well, who do they know? What influence do they have?
Well, we have to, it's hard to follow a lot of this stuff and put it all together and make it all make sense. I believe you hear a lot of drips and drabs in the news about certain things. Maybe it's all building to some point, but I've heard something about these sealed indictments. Mm-hmm. I don't know what a sealed indictment is. I guess it's they use it for high profile cases. But during a normal year, there's basically something like a normal year would be like 1,000 sealed indictments.
That's a normal year.
That would be a normal year. I heard something in September that there are 45,000 sealed indictments that are scheduled to be released. Wow. So I think there's going to be a bomb that's going to be dropped in September or October. It's going to be before the election, I think. I don't know. It might not. It might not. It's just like I said. It's hard to piece all this stuff together. And
dude, it's not hard to. I totally agree, but it's not hard to piece together the fact that fucking Bill Clinton flew on the plane X amount of times.
Yes,
he's utilizing the surface. Okay. Block the motherfucker up, burn him, do whatever you got to do, kick him in the fucking nuts 100 times.
Okay, all right. Well, he went to the island, but do you have proof? Apparently, on the island, they have these pinhole cameras that Epstein was recording all these motherfuckers doing all this shit. Yeah. Getting massages, doing this, doing that.
Sir Andrews? Dude, all right, take those motherfuckers
and Ghislaine
Maxwell.
Maxwell, she's still flying around the country right now and all her safe haven, fancy friends and shit like that.
Perfect point. Women are not immune to fucking corruption.
Yeah.
Like, horrible. She literally recruited a good percentage of the underage girls to serve. Now, she knew exactly what she was doing, and you had a female pilot flying these bitches into the island. Come on.
She was definitely the ringleader of that whole situation. And then how it spiderwebs from there. Yeah. She trains a couple girls to go do this, and then they train a couple girls to go do this.
Now, I will say there is a victim mentality with the girls already on the loop.
Well, yeah. I mean, they see these fancy fucking places that they're going to. Oh, I just got to, jerk this guy off or whatever, and I get to keep going to Spain.
Dude, if you're 14 years old and you're forced to you're on an island by yourself, and these adults are telling you to do certain things, I get it.
Well, yeah, and then they're also taking advantage of them, and they're all putting them in this situation where it's like, are people even going to believe me if I told them this?
Exactly.
Should I just keep doing what I'm doing and keep my mouth shut? Like the one I think brought her sister in the Netflix documentary, she brought her sister along, thinking he's only going to do this stuff to me. He won't do anything to my sister.
Right.
And then he comes to find out that they're doing the same thing to her sister.
These are victims who are psychologically disturbed from the experiences they had, which is by no fault on their end at all. Mm-hmm. I don't think they were in the wrong. Well, they're in the wrong, obviously, but I don't blame them for doing those things. But the wife, the pilot, the circle.
They all knew what was going on.
Yeah. The fucking photographer of the models that were referring the clients to him. Why the fuck is he walking on the streets right now?
Even the people in the communities that were like across from the island, they all knew what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, they, like you said, in the fucking documentary, they interviewed the fucking guy who cleaned the pools.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this shit was way too suspect while it's happening.
Yep.
I'm sorry, man. I mean, okay. Truth be told, what do? You go to the police and they say, okay, we're taking care of it. Mm-hmm. The FBI is already fucking investigating it.
And every time they interviewed Epstein, what came out of his mouth? I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
True, but that was like once the whole thing like hit the fan.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, I guess it's in the Constitution. It's your right, but
it is. But I mean,
when you do it all the time, it's very telling.
Exactly. It's just it baffles me that there is blatant fucking evidence of this shit not only happening, but how many people were affiliated with it, and they're not even being charged for it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry. What? Because you didn't actually fuck the girl, you're not guilty of it? What, you knew, you thought she was literally just giving a massage when you turned your back and walked out of the room? Get the fuck out of here, man. Like, it makes no sense.
Now, let me ask you, what have you heard about, like, Donald Trump being involved in all this? I've heard some stuff out there. I don't know if it's true. It could be conspiracy stuff.
So there was no doubt in my mind that he knew about it. Mm-hmm. But I have no evidence to believe that he did anything. Mm-hmm. There's literally... I mean, from my understanding is there's no record on the flight logs of him flying on the plane.
Yeah.
There's no evidence to suggest that. But there was a quote that he said before everything came out.
Like some young, or Jeffrey likes some young.
Jeff has an appreciation for beautiful women almost as much as I do. Yep. And from what I hear, he likes them on the younger side.
Yes.
Blatant fucking evidence that he knew what was going on. Does he have the responsibility to serve justice in this case? No. As the president, could he have taken more action? Maybe, but I'm going to be honest with you. Practicality, speaking in practical terms, you see everybody's, from the presidential standpoint, you see all the fucking shit wrong with the country.
Yeah.
So Epstein is one of a lot of shit going wrong that needs to be corrected. 100%. Do I label him as the need of justice to take place because of this? No. I don't hold it against him that there was already an FBI investigation taking place. There was already
apparently, if you're a president, you really can't get involved with those. You may be able to comment on what you know. But apparently,
if you want to make the argument, you could say basically, like, yeah, you can go down that road if you want to end up like JFK. JFK bucked the system. He got taken out. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not saying Trump is right in not doing anything about it. I'm just saying he's not wrong necessarily in not doing anything about it, because he's not the CIA director. He's not the FBI director. He wasn't a military person.
He's not the Attorney General either.
He's not the Attorney General. And if you think he should have been obliged to do it, what about all the other people who should have been doing something about it?
Should have, but I think there's a real insidious group of people out there. When people say, there's the deep state and stuff like that, I believe there really is a deep state. I believe that there is. You've watched House of Cards, right?
Absolutely.
So, show. Can you imagine that shit is really going on? I mean, look at the stuff that we're looking at right now happening in front of our eyes. They can't even make that shit up, I don't think. In a movie. Like with the shit that we're seeing.
Yeah.
For, pandemics versus the rioting and just everything that's going on. But I think, there's a lot of people that want to spin things. I saw this great thing about that Denzel Washington said recently. Or not recently, but it was a clip that I saw recently of him talking about not necessarily fake news, but if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you read the news, you're misinformed. So basically the media has a huge responsibility to tell the truth, and nowadays it's just about, it doesn't matter if it's the truth or not. It's who's first, and and sell it. Get to
right.
Basically, doesn't matter if it's true. Doesn't matter if it hurts people, and if you practice anything you practice, you'll get good enough at it.
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
So that's it's very hard to navigate through all of this stuff, and we don't have all the answers, and
we don't. But like, wipe out the things you don't know for fact, and then look at what you do know for fact.
Well, that's what I'm trying to sift through. I think right now,
especially
as we're talking, because you know a lot of stuff, I know a lot of stuff, and I think that once there's people out there too that follow this stuff, and they're keyboard warriors, and they are keeping track of this stuff, but it gets lost in the mainstream media for sure. They're on to the next topic right away.
Sure, but that's a media argument.
Yes.
So like bring it back to what do you think about Epstein in relation to that?
In relation to the media, or in relation?
Well, whatever point you're trying to make. I mean, if you're making a point that the media didn't cover appropriately, or that you don't nothing you.
I'm basically going off of memory. I don't have the computer out in front of me. I don't have sources. I only go by what I see, what I
totally
hear.
Admit that you don't have it backed up by facts.
You know, I'm talking about the documentary that I saw on Netflix. I could have a different opinion about. Just hit close on that. Running out of battery.
10%. So we got like 20 minutes.
I'm basically going off of a lot of stuff that I hear and see on the internet and the news, and trying to put it all together and some inside.
Yeah, we get all that, but like, what on Epstein specifically? What surprised you? What was something that like you don't think most people understand about him or the situation?
Well, he was apparently, well, from the documentary alone, he was this mastermind. He got a job at some
Bear Stearns.
Was that a law firm or was that a
investment bank?
Investment, yeah,
or firm. So
he basically lied, said he had this college degree, didn't, got the job, did real well, and then they found out that he lied to them and basically was going to get fired, and didn't get fired. He talked his way out of that as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then he was dating the daughter of, I think, the owner or something like that. Wasn't it the boss or something?
He was dating somebody related to it, but he didn't need to be doing that. Like he had such a good relation with the CEO of Bear Stearns to keep his position that, I mean, the daughter was almost like a bonus in his situation, given the circumstances.
I mean, god damn, could you imagine being the father of that daughter and finding out all this shit later on?
I would want to horrible. It's fucking horrible.
He must have a fucking target on his back. Like it could have been anybody that killed him besides the CIA. Could you imagine all this stuff comes out and somebody finds out about it? Maybe somebody has an inside, connection with the maximum security prison and said, "I will pay you whatever amount of money to go to sleep, turn those cameras off, so I can kill this fucking guy."
Do you know there's people that actually justify the suicide argument? There's people out there, like cops especially, that are supporting the idea that it was a suicide.
Can we tie this into the Black Lives Matter movement for a second?
If you want to.
And this is only because we're bringing up the suicide. I saw things about the guy who performed the autopsy on Epstein also performed the autopsy on George Floyd.
Get the fuck out.
Did you hear that?
No.
Look this guy's
up.
True? I'm going to look it up right now.
Holy shit, dude. Are you serious?
But not only that, I believe he had ties with the JFK autopsy.
But it was the same individual.
Same individual.
That's fucking fantastic. That is unbelievable.
I will look that up right now. He did
the autopsy on Epstein and George Floyd. That might be something most people have not known.
What is that guy's name?
That would be unreal.
Epstein.
In the meantime,
Coroner? No, autopsy.
Just autopsy report, doctor. Yeah, if he did the fucking report on that, dude, that would not be
Kennedy,
okay.
Martin Luther King assassinations, the murder of Jeffrey Epstein, and the George Floyd, and the killing of George Floyd. Michael M. Baden, born 1934, July 27th. This is Wikipedia. Kennedy, Martin Luther King.
No.
Kennedy, Martin Luther King assassinations, the murder of Jeffrey Epstein, killing of George Floyd, Michael Baden. This is from Wikipedia.
Yeah, well, Wikipedia cites the sources, so you can check that too.
We're gonna have to. I mean,
we got to come back to this because I literally have to research this myself, dude. There's no way the same fucking autopsy doctor did JFK, MLK, Epstein, and George Floyd. There's no way. There's no fucking. I mean,
I see O.J. Simpson in here.
O.J. Simpson. O.J.'s alive.
Well,
he's not even fucking dead yet.
I know, but no. But the trial, I guess Nicole Brown.
Oh, okay, the victim. Okay.
Okay, it says right here, Baden testified to the Simpson trial on August 10th and 11th, 1995, made two claims that he later disowned. First, claimed that Nicole Brown was standing unconscious when her throat was slashed. The purpose
all right, we're gonna research this. We're gonna come back to this just to confirm.
We do,
but if that's true, that is that's
it is insane. Why do you think people out there fucking wear their tinfoil hats and stuff like this? Because shit like this It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It doesn't.
Like,
Well, it makes sense, but not for the right reason.
Yes and no, but I mean, unless this guy is like the greatest fucking autopsy doctor coroner in the world, and he just had this
like he just had a good career and people trust him.
Not only a good career, but like, you know, when you're young and you have a knack for something and you're good, and then you grow up, and then when you're 18 you become like this NHL superstar and you're playing for the National Hockey League, and then you become a Tom Brady or whatever. This is the Tom Brady of autopsies. But even then,
okay,
you're Tom Brady of autopsies. You don't leave New England Patriots. You don't leave.
You're going to Tampa Bay, baby.
Well,
good luck.
You know what I mean? You stay in your team. Now this guy's going all over the world and doing autopsies.
He's going to Florida, dude.
New York to Georgia, whatever. I mean,
yeah.
I'm getting a little out of hand. I'm getting a little rambunctious, but
dude, if that's
I'm surprised
true,
you didn't hear about that.
I did not hear about it. If that's true, that is a whole podcast topic in of itself. The fact that he did all the autopsies for all the controversial figures within our history. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's get back to Epstein.
Doubt it, but, okay, so Epstein clearly didn't kill himself. He was tied into intelligence. There was many people that helped him through it, like you said, and you point out that I don't think a lot of people really necessarily understand is how fucking intelligent this guy was. Mm-hmm. Not to boast him by any means, but he graduated high school at 16. He was an NYU graduate. He worked his way into one of the biggest investment firm companies of all time, made him a ton of fucking money. There was a report that he was making close to $25,000 a month because of his investment capabilities.
Ooh, Wolf of Wall Street, bro.
Yeah, dude, he's no fucking joke. And it just kept going. But at the same time, with the affiliates that he had tied in, I actually found a quick little snippet. He was tied into Khashoggi, which is an arms dealer that affiliated. He was an arms dealer basically during the whole Iran-Contra in the 80s.
Not the Khashoggi that got killed, that was a reporter, right?
He wasn't a reporter. He was a arms dealer, essentially. He was, I mean, basically, like, if you really, well, okay. He was affiliated with the Iran-Contra affiliation, which is basically the overthrow of Iran's government via, basically, revolutionists. He was tied in with him directly. He had direct ties to him. Mm-hmm. He also had direct ties to Barak, which is now not currently, but at the time, the Israeli prime minister. He was also he was a very high-ranking political military affiliate and a financial guru in terms of investment firms. Mm-hmm. So you have money, arms, and foreign policy all being tied in with Epstein. Which means, again, I can't make this point more fucking obvious. This dude had some ties to intelligence.
Well, think about it. Think about it this way. I mean, this is the only way, the logical way that kind of makes sense, in my opinion. If you want to get all these high-ranking political people to do what you want them to do, and you have something personal against them, that if it ever came out, it would be political suicide. It would be, you basically probably want to kill yourself. That kind of leverage over somebody. And if you did it in such a way where you entice them in with sex, basically, I mean,
well, you would. So the theory is that he used the girls to gather intel on the clientele.
Maybe intel. Maybe it's like a what is that movie called? Jennifer Lawrence, where she's like a spy.
Oh,
Red Sparrow.
Red Sparrow. Fucking great movie, by the way. Russian, but
yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely a tactic out there. There's all kind of government secret tactics out there that people would use. James Bond, a whole spy situation, but whatever. Yeah. Whether it's intel or they just want to be put in a compromising position and being filmed, and have that kind of hard evidence on you. And then maybe some of these people like that kind of stuff. Maybe then that's why they keep going back, because they know how it is. Maybe they're going to hang out with all these elite people or whatever. And
I mean, you can go to elite parties without touching a little girls.
Yes, I understand that, but
I know you do. Don't get me wrong.
But now you get to hang out with these elites while doing that stuff because maybe you like that stuff. You know, maybe those people like doing that kind of stuff, and so they go over there like, hey, whatever, no big deal. Yeah. But meanwhile, this guy's videotaping you, and you're already in the club. Now you're in the club, so you can't beat him, join him, type of thing.
Well, again, I don't think that the officials that were involved with this had the obligation, which they did. They really did have the obligation to raise concern and voice it. But like you said in the last podcast, that's not the way the world works. It's not true.
Let's take this Donald Trump, Bill Clinton perspective of it. I've heard theories where Donald Trump participated in some of this stuff, which I think might be far-fetched because I haven't really seen much evidence to that. Like versus the Bill Clinton, like you said, where he had
flown on the plane
multiple times, 26 times or something, 27 times or something.
I mean, you're not flying Epstein Air because you like the fucking drinks they serve you.
He said, Bill Clinton said himself, I think he flew it 3 or 4 times, but it comes out that it was like 26 times or something like that. Let's say Donald Trump was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein, and he found out about it, found out what was going on, and said, I don't want to be part of this. He kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of a party, I believe in 2014, over in Mar-a-Lago, and that's what everybody's making a big stink about. I see other kind of conspiracy theories that I don't really see any proof or sources that pertain to that. But let's say Donald Trump said, hey, I know what's going on. I hang around with all of you kind of people, and I don't want no part of it. Now let's say Bill Clinton. He was a former president, and they try to entrap you, and they get you. Let's say they get you the first time. So now you already know, I'm Bill Clinton, I'm like, I already know they got shit on me, so I can do whatever I want now. And I love this shit. I want to keep going on the plane, and I'm going to...
He gets away with a lot of shit.
You know?
Absolutely.
He definitely does. But I guess that's just really the point I'm trying to make, is the point of them entrapping you, and you know, there's definitely no proof that Donald Trump was on one of these planes however many times.
Right.
At least that I see yet. I mean, but I guess, you know, the basic premise, what I'm trying to say is, once they catch you doing this kind of stuff once, and then you keep habitually doing it, I mean, it almost makes me think that there's a larger problem out there, and a larger, this goes way deeper than anybody really thinks or knows, for that matter, especially when you see everything that's going on with the matter, and just the circumstances of everything that happened, how people didn't get justice because he committed suicide.
I mean, he's dead. That's some serious justice being served.
Yeah, but they didn't get their day in court. They didn't, you know.
True. Okay. Good point.
There's a whole lot of crazy stuff going on.
Actually, side note on that, by the way, I think a lot of people think that he wouldn't have killed himself in that circumstance. I beg to differ. Not that he did, because he definitely didn't. But
if you're a human being, you probably would feel remorse and feel shitty about yourself for doing all this stuff, and then you would want to kill yourself.
Right.
But I guess that's if you're a good person. But I don't see this person. I don't see him as a good person at all.
No.
I don't think he has that kind of remorse.
No, I think he would have killed himself purely for the sake that he knew he was going into a federal penitentiary with the identity of being a pedophile, a serial pedophile, which means he would have been horribly abused by the prisoners during his sentencing time.
For sure.
So you could make the argument.
You can make that argument for sure.
Would have killed himself in that circumstance.
Apparently, he was on suicide watch a couple weeks before his death. So if somebody's on suicide watch, number one, your cameras malfunction, guards are asleep. You take him out of suicide watch. You give him stuff where he can kill himself.
I mean, the guy definitely did not kill himself. But, I mean, you could make the argument that he would have, given the opportunity where he was going. And he was... Yeah, exactly. Did he though? Absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way.
As far as the justice that was to be served, I guess, and I guess also it's really hard to put yourself in a pedophile's shoes, but you're trying to, I guess, see the mentality behind him, because if he was a good person and had some sort of remorse, you could also see him trying to kill himself, but you definitely know that he wasn't. And then also, don't you think that maybe if you're that kind of influential person and you can talk your way out of anything, you could talk your way into a plea deal the first time around, don't you think you would have given it a shot this time around? Don't you think you would have said, hey, listen, I got dirt on this guy, dirt on that guy, dirt on this guy.
True.
Are you really going to come after me, or are you going to try and make some sort of deal with me?
No, he definitely didn't think that was going to happen, given the circumstances. I mean, he's literally in the cell. The cameras go out. The guards don't check it on for 8 hours, and his cellie is removed from the scene or whatever without any replacement within a significant time period. There's coincidences, and then there's Epstein being murdered. I mean, there's two different sides. Yeah, he's definitely he was taken out.
Attorney General Barr said that this was the perfect storm of like fuck ups or whatever.
No, exactly.
There's more to the story there, and I think we haven't seen the last of this. Maybe we have. Maybe it's been swept under the rug, and nobody's going to give a shit anymore, and we'll never hear about it again.
Because nobody feels bad for him.
For who?
And Epstein, and you shouldn't. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
you shouldn't. It was a blatant situation or an act of going against the proper form of justice and blah 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 blah.
I think
I don't disagree with it, but it means I'm just saying it was blatantly he was fucking murdered.
I think this definitely goes way deeper than anybody expects. I mean, I think it might be tied into Pizzagate if you follow that. I think it might be tied into a whole lot of things. I mean, think about it. Not to get political, but let's go to Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Hillary Clinton, her aide, Huma Abedin, basically her right-hand woman in the presidential campaign, was married to Anthony Weiner.
Okay. On
Anthony Weiner's laptop was tons and tons of images of underage, pornographic images.
Not doubting it for a second.
I don't even know if he's in jail.
No, he's scot-free, man.
How do you get out of that shit?
Well, for one, he was a senator from New York.
I gotta look this up.
Look him up
happened
to make sure, because
I
I could be wrong if he's like a House official or not. He's a New York fucking politician. The guy knows the right people to pull the strings and blah blah blah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there are plenty of instances where political officials have chosen that path in their life and they got away scot-free because they had the right ties and connections. But then, I mean, that's a situation that would take years to unravel, years of investigation to really pull the right type of evidence and prosecution and getting all the people who are being paid off to go against it on the right side. It would be a big fucking hot mess. Doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. It just means, practically speaking, it wouldn't be easy to make happen. But then you got blatant fucking cases where you have a president of the United States, Clinton, who was literally, I mean, you don't get more fucking obvious than the shit he was doing. And he's still walking around. You have all these fucking Catholic priests all over the country who are clearly fucking guilty, and all you get is apology from the Pope. You have all these Hollywood celebrities, and you have literal eyewitness, or at least accounts of these situations happening by multiple fucking celebrities, and they're just out there making fucking movies. So at the end of the day, the blanket statement as to the people who should be served justice and who shouldn't be, I think you have to make the argument that there is gotten to the point where you can just get away with it, and it sucks. I don't like it. But there are people who just can get away with this shit.
But they are being exposed. I believe they are being exposed, and I believe this is a deeper, more insidious issue that any of us can even comprehend. I think a lot of it's going to be exposed.
True. I mean, it's tied into so
down the
many other
road.
aspects.
It is.
Absolutely. The problem is we know about it now, and it's still fucking happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
look at human trafficking alone. I mean,
look at that.
What was Ashton Kutcher testified before Congress in, don't quote me, but it was a while ago. It was a few years ago, and he had this software, this breakthrough software that helps with tracking these human traffickers and help find out what they're doing. It's some kind of software thing, but apparently it wasn't as effective. But Ashton Kutcher had this new software that was more effective, and that was years ago. I believe that there's even more. There's more effective software and technology that they have developed since then, and the numbers that they were putting out saying how effective it was were surprising to me, and how it worked.
True.
I believe that they have they use like facial recognition to help track these people and find out where they are, what they're doing. There's a lot of Big Brother stuff, but apparently it works. It's very effective, and maybe that's what they're using now. Maybe that's why we all have to wear masks. Maybe they're tracking these people.
It's ironic that if you miss like $10,000 on your tax return, the IRS is up your ass in less than a year with technology from 1963 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But these guys can get away with fucking pedophilia and full-blown corruption in every sense of the word. You know, like it's not that the research capabilities aren't there. It's fucking there. If the FBI and the CIA want to take down these intricate rings of pedophilia or human trafficking, they're capable of doing it, in my book at least. Well, they can pull this shit off. But like you said, that is a ring of people who are affiliated with other rings of people, and the network and spider web of connections and ties goes so far, so deep, blah, 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 that it's not black and white to their world.
I would like to find out more information on this enhanced narcotics mission that Trump started during this whole COVID-19 thing. Somewhere in, I believe, South America it started or originated, or that's where they were headed to first, but I haven't heard much of it since. But again, going back with the conspiracy thing, let's say this whole 6 feet apart thing, this whole...
So we're going back to the social distancing.
Well, no. I'm not necessarily. We're going back to the whole wearing masks and this technology that they were using to track down these human traffickers. I believe facial recognition was involved, and if this is a worldwide issue,
the pedophilia or
the pedophilia, you know, the human trafficking around the world, the pedophilia, all that stuff. I mean, apparently, you know, we don't see it. We don't hear about it in the news. We're not, you know, but it is out there. It does exist. And the only thing I'm just trying to really say there is more of a conspiracy thing that I just developed in my own mind just now, really. But what if they are tracking somebody, or a group of people, or a bunch of people, and we're all wearing masks, and they can't tell who's who? Maybe that's what this is all about.
Wait, what? But you tell me they can't find pedophilia because they're wearing masks?
Like the whole COVID thing, like they use this facial recognition software to track these individuals down. Now,
dude, you're not making the case that they can't find who these people are.
No, it's a conspiracy.
There's
theory.
No way.
I'm just
I'm shooting that shit right off the table. That's not even fucking real.
I'm putting it out there into
no
the world.
Way.
Why not,
bro? They started wearing masks in like March.
Yeah,
of this year.
That's right.
Pedophilia's been going on for like hundreds of years.
I know that, but I think it's heating up now, especially with all this.
You think the conspiracy is that the people who are doing wrong things are promoting wearing masks to cover their face?
I think that it's all tied in. I'm telling you,
dude, no way.
In my head,
no way.
I think it's all connected.
I think there's a lot of connections. There's a lot of deep state shit that's happening. Absolutely. But I don't think pedophilia rings are organizing a virus to wear masks
No.
to prevent their fucking face walking into Quick
I think that wearing the mask and having everybody wear, because there's cameras everywhere.
There are.
There's cameras everywhere.
But you don't need facial recognition to recognize who the individual is. They use a credit card, they use a payment form or whatever.
Yeah, but I think it's not just there. It's not just what you're using, what you're paying with. They got that all figured out. You pay with cash and be anonymous.
Bro, they know who you are when you walk into a store. I'm sorry. Even if you're wearing a mask, they know who you are.
Who's they?
Whoever you're talking about. Whoever the government agency that's looking over everybody doing this fucking bullshit. There's no way the mask was a conspiracy theory or, I'm sorry, a deep state organized agenda to prevent criminals from being able to get away with their fucking tasks. Come on.
That's not what I'm saying.
Clarify.
I come across like a nut job sometimes.
No, you're just on one side. That's all, man. There's nothing wrong with
that. No. It's we're gonna have to edit all. This is gonna be like the blooper reel, because
there's no way there's a conspiracy to wear fucking masks to cover criminals' faces.
No, I'm saying they're using what they're doing is they're using this to their advantage.
Okay.
That they don't have to wear a mask. That shit is going down where basically all at the same time. I believe a lot of stuff is converging.
A lot of things are happening. Yes, absolutely.
All at the same time,
absolutely.
And it's happening faster and faster. Sometimes I think that, stuff that's going on in the news is literally there, shoved down your throat, meant to distract you from other things happening.
True.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Absolutely.
It's all politics. And I'm just saying that it's possible that I'm just trying to make the connection between the software that they use, and you can look this up. You can look into what Ashton Kutcher was trying to get across to Congress about using this software, the tool, and getting it to all the police and law enforcement around the world for them to use this software to help them really find these human traffickers and really make the fight more fair, I want to say. And the fact that we all have to wear masks right now is making it harder for them to track these individuals.
Okay.
So the fact that everybody has to wear masks, because some places you have to wear masks, some places you don't. Some businesses tell you have to wear masks. Now they're making a big deal about masks where everybody has to wear a mask in that state. Some states don't. Then you have Joe Biden saying if he were president, he would mandate or try to mandate that everybody in America, whether they're inside or outside, would have to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. You take all that into consideration. Mm-hmm. There has to be. Oh, there's even. I don't know if this is true, but I'll look this up in a couple minutes while you rebuttal to what I'm saying. But there's this in Oregon, this councilman. I don't know. She was a man who became a woman or something like that, and is the head of whatever. And basically, he mandated that everybody has to wear a mask if you're white. If you're black, you don't have to wear a mask. I don't know if that's true. I'm gonna look this up right now.
If you're white, you have to wear a mask?
That's what I saw. It could have been a meme, could have been a fake meme. That's not true. I'm going to look this up right now. But I'm trying to make the point that certain areas are making laws that you have to wear a mask and you don't have to wear a mask, versus it's okay to wear a mask, it's not okay to wear a mask. If you're in a red state, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're in a blue state, you have to wear a mask. Shit like that.
True.
So what I'm saying is not just human traffickers, criminals too. These people riding in the streets, they got a mask on.
To hide their fucking face, man.
To hide their face. And they feel like they're invincible. And they're using that to their advantage. Okay. Now, a law-abiding citizen who can conceal carry, we were just talking about concealed carry a few moments ago during our break. And it's illegal for you to wear a mask if you're a concealed carrier.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Of course.
Interesting.
And I mean, it's first of all, it's common sense, but it's illegal for you to wear a mask while concealed carrying. You have to show your face.
Fair point, man. Fair point.
So, what do you do in that situation? I mean, I've seen even in these protests, there was some guy that they call like Master Chief or something like that. I think he was Antifa or whatever. I don't know what he was, but he was there. I believe he was armed, in full getup, mask. He literally looked like Master Chief out of Halo. Completely covered. He looked like a stormtrooper, all this armor on and everything, and he was carrying like an AR-15 or something. And is that legal? Or just because everybody's saying to wear a mask now, the people who conceal carry, do they wear the mask or do they conceal carry, or can they do both?
Are you asking me? Are you proposing the question? Yeah.
I guess I'm proposing the question, putting it out there.
I mean, legally, no, they can't. But I think in today's
no, they can't. What? Are you breaking the law by?
You're breaking the law. You're breaking the fucking law
by wearing a mask and conceal carrying, or not wearing a mask.
If that is the law, then you are clearly breaking the law.
Or conceal carrying.
So what you're saying is there's conflicting arguments. Yeah. No.
So now everybody has to wear a mask, but it's illegal to wear a mask and conceal carry.
So if you conceal carry and you wear a mask, you're breaking the law.
Yes.
Technically, you're right.
So now then, what if you want to conceal carry, but you don't want to wear a mask now? Because you're concealed carrying, you're breaking the law if you...
You are breaking the law, but I don't think any cop is going to be like, oh, you should have been wearing your mask in this situation. I mean, you could turn that... The lawyers would use that as an argument point if anything ever went down.
It's weird.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I had no idea that was the law, so I would never know. But I think if you're walking down the street with a gun, with a permit to conceal and carry, and you're not wearing a mask, or even if you are wearing a mask... Right now, I don't think the cops are concerned about that.
Oh, I don't think they're concerned about anything right now. I saw a video where they're literally going around this. It was the NYPD, and these guys are shooting fireworks at each other. I don't know what it was. They were shooting fireworks in the street, and it literally looked like a war zone. Like they were shooting rockets at each other, but it was probably just Roman candles. And you just see an NYPD cop just drive by, no lights on, just keep on going.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not for nothing. If I was the cops, dude, at this point, it's fair game.
Yeah,
it really is, because if you're getting called into an ambush, or if nobody's gonna fucking support you, and they're riding against you, and then they're asking for your protection at the same time, well,
no, it's crazy out there. But
I get it.
Again, I also talk to people, a lot of people in New York City, and they're saying like a lot of this stuff is isolated. It's not really that big. There's some little protests here and there, but it's not as big as the media is making it out to be.
Yeah.
The media makes it seem like the world is falling apart.
True.
But then I talk to people in reality, and it doesn't really match up to what the media is portraying.
Absolutely. And that's the media being biased and agenda driven, and fitting their narrative or whatever. But I mean, like, they'll cover the fireworks war going on. That's on like 2 streets at the entire you look at you hear about Seattle, it's 6 blocks. Yeah. It's not the entire fucking city. No. It's 6 blocks.
And I saw they were like dismantling it today.
Yeah.
Did you see that? They're like moving these egg crates around and these pallets of wood. And it's like it literally looks like a kid's fort that they use to block the streets, and they literally just moved it over. I mean,
it's I'm not gonna say it's childish, but it definitely is petty at the end of the day what you're trying to pull off. Because if you wanted to honestly isolate your own fucking anti-government police force city type of thing, you literally would not be arming all your fucking citizens and walking around shooting people on the weekends to prove your point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really wanted to establish a completely different democracy, government, whatever, you would take that shit seriously enough to not be shooting your own fucking people in the street.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't understand, like, how the fuck do you think you're going to pay for fucking energy, food, water, supplies in general without having some sort of trade? If you can't trade, you got no supplies. Well, how do you trade? You need commerce. Where the fuck are you gonna get the money from?
No, did you see like
what the fuck, guys?
Did you see the one in Chaz or whatever where they just said they were gonna like grow stuff, and they went to like a baseball field. They were growing trying to grow make a farm, and it just literally looked like they put topsoil down on the ball field and planted some stuff, and they're sitting there watching.
Yeah,
like it's gonna grow right in front of their own eyes, and it wasn't even like a big plot. If I had a garden like that for my own family, I don't think it would make enough food to last us the whole year.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely, totally agree. I mean, if you truly were legit about starting your own type of government, independent, anarchist kind of like, human civilization thing, you would have to plan so many years in advance in terms of property, technology, finances, supplies, everything. You'd have to put all that shit into motion at the end of the day. Okay. And there's literally no way you could do this in a span of 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, short period of time it was, and just pull this off out of your fucking ass with like random people showing up trying to make it happen. I mean, if you want a Woodstock fucking hippie commune area, then you go to the middle of a desert out in like Arizona or Nevada or some shit where nobody cares what happens to the property out there, essentially. And you pull off your own like permanent Burning Man. You don't fucking take over a city that other people are already established in, living their lives and all that kind of stuff, just like the business owners.
Yeah.
It's just, it was poorly thought out. It was extremely piss poor, not ideology, but just like the whole planning of it was just random. It was like out of nowhere, like, all right, we're going to take over the fucking city and we're going to block the cops out of it. The fucking, what? No, that's not how this shit works. If you want to revolutionize, I'll just say this. There was a great meme or whatever I saw recently that said, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, but she never threw a brick and never lit anything on fire to change the world. Mm-hmm. She did it all. She never had to do any of this kind of craziness. She never went through all this kind of shit. No. And she changed the world with a message that was clear.
Well, you can get behind that kind of message. You can get behind a Martin Luther King who doesn't, is against violence. You have a Malcolm X, and I believe he had Marxist ideals, right? Is that not?
As far as I know, yeah.
And he was more for the violence because violence will get the attention, and Martin Luther King was about peaceful protest, and that's what's guaranteed in the Constitution is peaceful protest, not riots or anything like that. So that's and I believe Martin Luther King had a stronger message and got his point across, and that's probably exactly why he got shot. Mm. But in the end, those peaceful protests made a big difference.
They did. Again, like going off the topic from the last podcast, I do believe you had to light a couple cars on fire. I hate to say it, I really do. But you needed that first night. It took 3 nights of violent protesting to bring the cops of George Floyd to justice. And
was it that though, or was it Trump, getting the FBI involved right away and expediting?
No, I have no reason to believe that it was Trump's initiative or the FBI investigations. I literally believe it was because the streets were the police precincts were being burnt down. Well, who said, okay, guys, we'll arrest these cops.
Who made the first call on that? Because there is law and order versus, giving into a violent mob. And if we give into a violent mob versus maintaining law and order, where do you draw that line? So basically anybody who cries about anything, and I'll make this point about the Second Amendment. It's two different groups,
two different topics, but
two different topics. But I'll tie it in here. Mm. You have a group, Black Lives Matter, people who are saying they either have no rights or their rights are being taken away from them, or...
Well, just arrest the fucking cops. That's really what it came down to.
Well, yeah. I mean,
just arrest the cops who fucking murdered black people unnecessarily. That's all it was.
Yeah.
The purest form of it, essentially. No, I have not heard a black person argue that if a black man is a criminal and they do something wrong, they shouldn't be arrested. I've never heard that argument from that side. Mm-hmm. But what I do hear is cries that black people who are killed for no fucking reason, mm-hmm. the cops are going scot-free. That was the
Why are they being killed for no apparent reason?
That's where the racism argument comes into it.
Is it racism or is it these statistics? Because
you can't statistically argue that you should shoot a black guy for no fucking reason.
Is it both?
No, you don't. You don't have your knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes because he's
No,
black. Without
obviously
there's no statistical reason
yeah,
for that. Just
there,
no.
There's bad eggs, and then
Yeah. Well, my point is the black community, from what I understand,
mm-hmm.
the majority, not the extreme, of course, because there are fucking criminals. There's no denying that. The Wendy's situation, perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's people like Eric Gardner, who's literally just selling tobacco on the street, and he's choked to death by one cop, and then a bunch of us take him down. Why did you need to end his life? You didn't.
No, you did not.
You did not.
I'm not trying to make that argument that for any of that. I mean,
yeah,
I'm trying to make the argument that they're
and that's just in this year alone.
Yeah, there are good cops. There are bad cops. Yeah. And why is it this year alone? I mean,
it's just accumulated to the point. Every year you have a handful, if not more, cases of black people being killed unnecessarily. You also have black people being killed for reasons that are justified. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It doesn't mean that if you're black and you're killed by a cop, you're innocent. By any means. There are plenty of black people who deserve, when I say deserve, I literally mean they were doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. They were not handling the situation appropriately. And it is justified for the cop to use excessive force. Mm-hmm. That being said, there are plenty of examples as well as cops brutalizing black people in situations where there was no reason to. And the only argument that is justified from that is, why aren't those cops being served justice? It's all the true ideology comes down to.
I agree with you there. There's been plenty of cases in the past where you look at it from the law enforcement perspective, or you look at it from the human's perspective, or the civilian's perspective, or the black perspective, or the white perspective, or however you want to look at it.
Sure.
But in the end, I think that there's good cops, there's bad cops, there's racist cops, there's not racist cops.
Yeah.
Then there's the media who sensationalizes it, and maybe they only sensationalize it at certain times when it benefits them, or maybe they got nothing else to talk about.
Sure.
Nothing else going on in the news.
Sure.
Look at what happened over here. Let's get everybody talking about this. It is a big problem, and I think there needs to be some reform. And I know that there has been instances where you have seen some of these cops. How do we get talking about cops again?
We always tie ourselves back into this shit. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's a long story. Well, finish your point.
Well, basically, my point is, you can argue about the statistics. Police reform, I think, definitely needs
Trump
to be
just
on the table.
Put something into effect.
Yeah.
As far as the House, I should say, passed a bill, but it realistically is going to pass the Senate. But I do believe Trump has pushed for certain legislation in advocating police reform.
I believe he signed some kind of executive order or something like that. But in the end, it shouldn't be his job. It's not his job to do any of this stuff.
Shouldn't. And again, it's not. It's already illegal to kill people who are unarmed.
It's the mayors. It's the state. It's your local governments that have to be responsible for policing. There should be no state police.
It's just, listen, dude, you see bad shit happen, and those people should be arrested.
Yeah.
Plain and fucking simple. At least give them the goddamn trial. Not just, all right, well, shit happens. Oops.
You know.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you should be held accountable. There also has to be standards. There also has to be...
Granted, but those standards should be evidently clear in the trial case.
But is it federalized or is it localized?
Localized should be the arrest. Federalized, if it has to reach that point, should be the court concerns.
As far as
like if it's let's say you're in I don't know, let's say you're in it doesn't really fucking matter actually. Let's say in New York City, you're a New York City cop and you get arrested for this service and blah blah blah. And there's dispute amongst the lawyers over, would this make the NYPD look bad if they charge the cops? So they're going to raise that concern. Okay, take that case to the federal level, if not the state. Let somebody who's outside the New York NYPD jurisdiction involvement handle the case, so there's no bias kind of judgment from it.
Well, how do you handle a case like even the George Floyd incidents, where there's obviously going to be bias no matter what, because everybody's seen the video. Everybody's going to know about this.
Right.
How do you give this guy the cop a fair trial.
So good point. Brett Weinstein,
even though we all saw it.
Absolutely. Brett Weinstein on the Joe Rogan podcast actually made a good point about this, where he was arguing that unfortunately he believes that if there was a true trial for it, it would be a media-based trial. That the conviction would be based upon, basically, what he was saying is at the end of the day, they're going to convict him guilty because they don't want to see a civil war, which is not the appropriate nor the American way to handle justice, which is totally true.
But damn.
That being said, George Floyd is just one of hundreds of situations where cops should have been brought to justice, if not at least a court trial, to be addressed in their search. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not a cop. If it is in the police handbook to hold your neck on an unarmed, handcuffed man on his chest for 8 fucking minutes, okay. Then you need to rewrite those fucking laws.
Those other cops should have had some kind of common sense where they would have said, "Hey, listen, let me take over from here. You've been on his neck, you know."
Yeah, all this stuff.
We can handcuff him. He's not moving. Just back up. I know you had a stressful time during this or whatever.
Yeah.
Common sense kind of stuff could have handled. Again, we all have personal actions that everybody has to take. Everybody, victim or not, and.
But again, there's just so many examples of this situation, and I think it's unfortunate that because the movement has gone so extreme, that you could easily make the case now that the whole thing should be wiped off. That you should just, it's all fucking extremism, ignore it, it's bullshit, get rid of it, when there is truth to the matter.
But this is what I don't like about Black Lives Matter, and this is what how my opinion has changed over just the past couple weeks. In the beginning, we also I was pissed off about what happened in the video, and then thought some of this stuff was justifiable. That's what they get, But then over time, I've done a little research, and I've had my opinions have changed. There was somebody that was it wasn't a Candace Owens, it wasn't one of those type of people that was talking about this, but it was just some regular guy, and he said, which Black Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter, and then he started talking about these numbers with abortions, how they basically have an extremely high rate of abortions. The conservatives' voices, they basically tell them to shut up. The black conservative voices out there.
Yeah.
The black business owners that are getting their businesses teared away.
Yeah.
The black cops that are getting killed, which Black Lives Matter?
Which is all valid. Entirely.
It is.
It's all fucking valid.
But it's what I'm saying is it's spider webs. Like, this movement, to me, has lost its, whether it was done intentionally or non-intentionally, maybe there was inside subversion tactics where they go out there and riot just to make it look like these guys are bad, and their mission and their point they're trying, and their whole march and movement gets diminished because of these other people.
Absolutely.
But then again, this guy made a good point. So which Black Lives Matter?
Right, and you definitely could go on to argue the need for blacks to stop killing blacks, the need for business owners who were vandalized during this whole movement to get justification.
This world is fucked. This
absolutely.
world is absolutely fucked.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. The only reason this thing is such a bigger movement than most is because the police force is meant to represent justice in and of itself. Black people who are just civilians and they choose to go the criminal route or choosing to be criminals, then you know what you're dealing with. Radical extreme rioters, protesters, you know what you're dealing with. You know they're wrong. You know they're in the wrong when they're doing what they're doing.
So how come? Why aren't they getting arrested? Why aren't these people who are rioting and stuff like that and burning down statues or knocking them down and stuff like that? Why aren't they getting arrested? Why are they just being allowed to do this stuff?
Well, my understanding is at this point they are being arrested.
They are now, yes.
Yes, that they're going back onto footages from satellite imaging and local street cams and they're looking at facial recognition like you were talking about, and they are identifying these people, and they're going to jail for the rest of their fucking life. These guys aren't getting like a 2-year sentencing.
Really?
Because they're literally like vandalizing, theft, destroying businesses and all that kind of stuff. Rightfully, the guys who are jumping on cop cars while they're burning in the streets, they're going to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
They are.
Really?
And they should be.
Yeah.
By all fucking accounts, man. In my book, I didn't march in anything. I didn't go out there per se. But I didn't see any reason why you should be literally, other than, again, the first couple nights where you needed to kind of raise a ruckus. You didn't need to continuously be stealing fucking 30 pairs of Vans to prove that.
No, absolutely not.
It wasn't for the right reasons.
I respect everybody's right to protest for whatever it is. Even if I don't agree with it, if you want to protest because, you're pro-life or pro-choice or pro-gun or anti-gun, peacefully protest.
Yeah.
About anything.
Yeah.
I really don't care. As long as you're peacefully protesting, that's fine. Yeah. But then a lot of people have different views and different,
Sure. I mean, you're going to have white supremacists against BLM at one point or another, meeting up in the streets, doing their sign holding and chanting their sayings. It's obviously going to get heated and turn into a violent situation to one degree or the other. The problem is you got to provide, as a governmental entity, the availability for that to happen up until that point. Once it crosses that line, which you really can't black and white say it's going to happen right fucking now, it's an unfortunate circumstance to be a law official at that time, but that's the gray zone of so many situations in life. So
I know I said I was going to look this up, but this was I just looked it up, I guess. I don't know is New York Post, are they reliable or whatever? This is literally the first link that I clicked on.
New York Post is kind of like the Washington Post. They're biased, but they are a news organization.
So is this like a legitimate source?
Well, what do you got?
I don't know. It just says Oregon County revises face mask order exempting non-white people.
Oregon County revises face mask order exempting non-white people.
What does that mean, non-white people?
So basically, according to the article, what they're saying is that Oregon County is saying that people have to wear white mask unless you're white. Or, I'm sorry, if you're anybody who's not white doesn't have to abide by the Oregon face mask issue.
Why?
I don't know, man. That makes
Facing
no fucking
a
sense.
threat of racist commentary, Oregon's Lincoln County has amended an exemption of non-white people from a new order that requires face coverings to be worn in public, according to a new report. Health officials have recently announced
the dumbest fucking thing I ever heard.
Recently announced that residents wear face coverings where they may come within 6 feet of an individual not from the same household, but people of color do not have to follow the same rule if they had heightened concerns that racial profiling and harassment over wearing the mask, officials said earlier.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I truly believe that I could get at least 10 to 15 black people here right now that would say that's a bunch of bullshit.
What?
That
article? Or
that I don't think people in the black community, I'm just hypothetically assuming that the majority of them are not saying, oh, they're racially profiling who has to wear masks. I don't think that's the argument that's being made. Like, whoever the fucking Oregon County officials are saying it's a racial goddamn fucking decision. I don't think they
because racial
I don't think it's a racial profiling
in the end,
issue.
honestly,
Jesus
I think this country doesn't even have a problem with racism. I honestly don't. I think it's a very small demographic that has this problem, and I don't think it's that big of an issue as a lot of other issues.
Before you say it,
I think it's. Yeah, I don't want to come across like it's not an issue or it's not that big. I'm saying it's not as large of an issue, and it's not happening all the time like you really think that it is. I think that there is certain
times have changed.
It's very hard to even talk about.
Slavery doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's not as bad as it used to be in terms of that. But to say
even,
that there's
even back
no
then,
more
like
racism,
the statistic I gave you before, where it's only 1.4% of the people, if you want to look at a numbers standpoint, because apparently that's what we do nowadays, is just throw these numbers out there.
True.
1.4% of the population during the height of slavery in America, those people owned slaves.
Yeah, but that's when slavery was accepted.
Now, if you break that down, there are probably plantation owners where they treated the slaves well, and some of them that did not, that beat them.
So
and
I'm not going to
them
entertain that slavery was a decent fucking.
Well, I'm saying more.
I'm
saying that they treated them better than other plantations where they would probably whip them, beat them,
sure that
kill
happened.
them.
I'm sure that happened, but you can't justify slavery.
I'm not justifying. I'm just breaking it down number wise.
Okay, so you're saying it's less than
of that.
Okay.
I'm saying of that 1.4%, you had groups that and this is the way it was back then. This is just what they did back then. It was a practice.
True.
And it's still a practice today.
In other countries.
In other countries, very prevalent practice.
But is it against blacks?
It could be.
I'm pretty sure
there was also Irish slaves. There was all kinds. There was all kinds of slaves in America.
Absolutely. So
again, we could go down that route.
The question is, why would you make the case against it?
I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just trying to put things in perspective. That a lot of the stuff that we see is what the media is telling us, trying to make it an overblown problem. Okay. Not trying to defend it again. Okay. I'm just trying to put it out there that you gotta, nowadays you have to look at both sides. The extreme side, you got to look at it can't just be right and wrong anymore. You have to look at every possible single angle out there, because that's a form of manipulating the masses and getting them to rise up or manipulate them, make them feel a certain way, make them vote a certain way. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm saying there's a lot of problems out there. I'm not trying to rank which one's the worst problem versus which one's the least worst problem out there.
True.
I'm not trying to compare abortion to whatever, Black Lives Matter to gun rights to, I don't know, whatever. There's a lot of problems out there. But one can make, certain arguments, and then you put things into perspective. And
so what you're saying basically is that the media is overblowing the extent that there is such a thing of today's racism in the country.
Yes, I do. I don't think it's that prevalent. I don't think it's systemic. I think it's a problem. But when they say that it's spread throughout every square inch of America, I don't think that's true at all. I think that there's millions and millions of black people that can get along just fine with white people, and vice versa. And there's more of them than there is of the racism and everything that's going on. Not saying it's not a problem. It definitely, is a problem. But the fact that the media is shoving this down your throat, pausing way too long on this.
I think you're trying to make the argument against the media company more so than the actual racial arguments out there. I think it's more of a media is...
It's the media versus statistics versus facts versus what you see in your own personal life versus, what area you may live in. You may live in a shady area where this stuff might happen all the time. Maybe you feel like you never have a shot, or maybe, you can make you can make all kinds of arguments about their by race. And this is why this is why it's always a political topic, to talk about abortion, to talk about race, to talk about this, to divide the country, to make them go one way or the other.
Well, I think they are real topics in our country, but I think politics leverages the emotional side of each one.
I think it's politics and media combined. And
they expose it more so than it needs to be. And not exposed, but they definitely promote a certain perspective in hopes of gaining leverage off of the voting clientele. But that doesn't deny the fact that these are actual hot topics in our country. For instance, you brought up abortion. Not that this is going to be an abortion topic, but there is an abortion issue that needs to be addressed in our country. And when politics get a hold of the idea of the belief that the people who are voting for them have one-sided, very heated topic or attachment to it, one side or the other, they're going to leverage that, and they're going to promote all the headlines. Because again, news media companies aren't giving you what they feel, in my opinion, is what you need to hear. They're giving you what you're trending as a group society through Google and all this kind of stuff. They're looking at what you're interested in, and then they're going to leverage what you're interested in to give you a certain perspective on it.
Not only that, but they know what you're interested in. They know when you go on your phone what you're doing, what you're looking at, what you're researching.
Marketing is, if not the greatest asset they have.
Yeah, and it's not only, marketing has changed so drastically right now. And it's not just marketing. I believe it's all about control and government control.
I mean, almost always has been too.
But it's more refined and specific to you now. It's direct marketing to you. It's Jason Brown versus me.
Yeah.
Versus, it's not boys versus girl, men versus women. It's not these bigger groups, these larger groups that they would advertise to. Now it's you. Hey, I'm thinking about getting a new phone this year. You might even just talk about it, and Alexa will pick it up, and then all of a sudden,
absolutely,
you're seeing ads on your Facebook. For that, you go on a website or whatever.
Right.
Direct marketing to you now.
Absolutely. And so, what I think the political system does is take that information, which is being sold, pretty much free market value, and then they're going to take so 70% of people who are trending Democrat also believe BLM, and then boom, CNN, MSNBC, bum, are all promoting all those news articles.
Yep.
Vice versa on the opposite side. Gun rights. Who's researching the guns the most? The Republican side. Fox News. Boom.
It's like
guns.
It's like what he said. Sell it. So it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. Just sell it.
Yeah.
I gotta see if I can find this because I don't know if you've seen it, but
all right, we got like maybe 3 or 4 minutes left on our battery life, so
we totally fucked up the whole.
No, we didn't fuck it up. We just had to do a couple edits along the way. And
you know what I think what we should do is probably edit some of this stuff, like
make some clips. Yeah,
we could probably make a bunch of clips out of this.
We could. I mean, we'll keep this.
Put it out there, or whatever.
Yeah. Today, this is podcast number 2. We had a good time talking about all the different wide range topics. I personally like the idea of covering past or relatively current news events and then going to a main topic. And then letting it flow from there. I think it's a good, natural way to do it.
I like that idea too. I don't like that we didn't really stick with the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. We went off on a different little tangent there, and I guess it's because of what's going on today. And
but this is real.
What's hitting us in our but we do want to talk about these topics, and I think that next time we should either do Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Or
it's paranormal in so many ways.
Or what else? There was another one. That was another big one that I wanted to really bring up.
Okay. Well, let me know, man. Because, I mean, we are free to cover whatever we want to. This is our podcast, so we can cover all the topics. Skinwalker Ranch will be the next one. It is paranormal, alien.
Well, maybe we should give them a choice. Let's pick 2 topics.
30 fucking viewers for the last one.
Whatever. 30. if there's 3 people that say, I want to see Skinwalker Ranch, or I want to see this. So
I like the idea.
Let's have them vote on it.
I love the idea, but we need a fucking following base first off to get votes on. But once we get to that point, yeah, absolutely. Let our what'd you say, 1.2 million viewers?
1.2 million viewers. Yeah.
Yeah.
30. I think 15 of those 30 were me. So.
So Nick, how many times do you want to rewatch the episode? Yeah. I watched it a bunch of times.
I just sit there, click.
Get
them likes up. Get them likes up.
Yeah. You know what's funny though? Like, this is one of our first episodes. Imagine like 5 years down the road, let's hypothetically we're extremely successful. If we go back and watch this episode,
we're gonna be like, oh my god, we're such amateurs.
Oh, the entertainment. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking us out. Thanks for entertaining our viewpoints and our wild fucking ideologies on things. Feel free to hit up the comments section. Tell us anything you agree with, disagree with, and we are more than fully open to corrections on facts, on legitimate things that either we got wrong or something that we just don't see eye to eye on that you have a different perspective on. feel free to fill up your the comment section with your own personal beliefs and all that good stuff.
And also hit that like button and subscribe, please.
Till next time.
See you later. Oh.